Max morning, everyone. My name is Chris. I'm a Crown Diamond with Max International, and I was been given the distinct pleasure to share with you what I believe is probably one of the most important tool in presenting your business or building your business, I should say. And before I begin, I wanted to thank Dr. Bright for putting this together. I would say several months back, we had a conversation in reference to how can we make the presentation that we've been using for the past 7 8 years at the time, and how can we make it crisper and sharper, and maybe make it a little bit simpler for the average prospects looking at the information, so it's not too overwhelming when it comes to the science, not too overwhelming when it comes to the opportunity, but that gives enough information for someone that says, you know what, I really like what I'm seeing. Now I'm ready to dig into it. And that's when the real work begins. And I'm sure that many of you know that. And for that reason, what I'm about to share with you, I truly believe is really what should be duplicated. And I'm coming from a position of experience too, being with the company for the past 14 and a half years now. It's really interesting because I've seen the evolution over the years, how the company have evolved from year to year, and the tools and people coming and going and everything else. And you come to feel it's like you become a little intuitive as to what people want to hear, what people want to see after you've been seeing things for over 10 years. And and I like to begin with this a few questions that I like to ask you, which in as I go through the information here, where I will be answering some of those questions throughout the presentation. And again, the reason I'm asking you this question is to set a foundation as to what's the logic behind this presentation. It's not just something that we put together, shooting from the hip, and let's see what comes out. It's literally through trial and error and what we've seen work and what does not work. And of course, you know, everyone may have a different opinion on things, but I truly believe that what we have here can really, really make a difference. And especially in this new era where things have to be done a lot quicker, everything has to be done online. So, in line of that, I'd like to start with some questions. What is your goal when you're about to do a presentation with someone? Is it to end up with an associate or a customer? And folks, there is no right or wrong answer here. It really depends on how you want to build this business. Some people will really focus on building the business, right? Where they want to get associates on board and it will default to a customer. Some people have a logic, let us get them started as a customer. And if they like the product, then let's convert them to the opportunity. And folks, listen, the reality is there's been millionaires in this industry doing both. So there's no right or wrong answer. It really depends on what resonates for you. But the question I'm asking here is you need to have a good idea of what is the outcome, what's the end outcome that you're looking for here. So is it an associate or get a new customer? Because that will kind of help you gearing the presentation in the direction that you're looking for. And honestly, the same presentation can work for in both cases. Um, One of the things that's important here, another question I'd like to ask you is, what do you need to present to get their interests, right? And because that's really what's important. It's not what matters to you, it's what matters to them. So number one is you need to establish credibility. I'm sure everybody will agree with me on that. And the other one is to create value, right? Establish credibility and create value. If you're in a position to establish these two things, you will have strong possibilities that you will end up with a customer, a new customer, or a new associate. All right, I'm very, very confident. I'm sure you'll agree with me on that. So what tools do you use to present your max opportunity? All right. And the one thing that, if I can talk from my own experience, starting teams from scratch, right, in North America, in the Philippines, in Africa. I mean, Tammy and I had the opportunity to be there where most markets have started, like from scratch. So we've seen the evolution and we've seen the leadership evolve, and it's just absolutely amazing. And the one thing that I can tell you that have served us very well is congruency, consistency by keeping simplicity. That works. And this is what I want to talk to you as I'm presenting the format presentation here this evening. So let me shift over to so I can share my screen. And what you're looking at here is obviously the introduction of Max International. And this is a really good space for you to introduce yourselves and kind of share a little bit about yourself and to give a general idea of what it is that people are going to see. But again, without explaining the whole presentation here, you don't want this presentation to be too long. So it's a very, we're talking like 15 to 20 seconds to maybe 30 seconds and just initiating. And for that reason, we also made a script available to you. The script is very, very good, and it will actually help you with the language, right? You will find that your presentation will have a bit more of a professional front. And it doesn't mean that you need to keep the script as is. You can certainly manipulate it in a way that you feel is more compatible with your style. So let me just stop the presentation format here so you can actually see the details. Okay, so there's actually 40 slides here. Now, this is not written on stone. Things could change. But I can tell you that this format is very clean and very clear. And one thing that also I found has been very, very helpful for me and many of the associates is I didn't used to be a script guy. Scripts has never been really my thing. But what I found is if you read it often enough, eventually it becomes your language. And you will find that the quality of your presentation and the vocabulary of your presentation will actually increase, right? So for that reason, if I go on to the next slide, you'll notice on the bottom over here, there are some, yeah, you can see my mouse. Yeah, you can see here that there's a script there, okay? And that script will also show, so if you turn around and do your presentation view and you happen to have two screens and you're presenting this online, then obviously you will present the format you saw earlier. On the other screen, you would actually see your script, or you can have your script on an iPad or any kind of devices, or maybe on a piece of paper, whatever works for you. And my recommendation is I actually read the script about 10 times, right? Each pages. So it flows, so it doesn't look like I'm reading it. And what's happening now is because I know the presentation well, and I know this company well, and I know the products and the information very well, I find that the flow, I'm adding my own personal print with the added vocabulary, if you understand what I'm saying. So from there, what happens is as we present, it just starts with establishing a little bit of the foundation of the company. We move on to the next slide, and it talks a bit about our mission. And you'll notice that what's on the slide is not necessarily what's on the script, right? So they can read the slide while you're actually sharing kind of on a parallel different content. So in this case, we're talking a little bit about the mission, the legacy, and so forth. And then we get into, this is where I believe we're starting to establish credibility, right? Because what's going on is that we are dealing in a changing environment, and people are looking for better lifestyle. They're looking for better quality when it comes to food and when it comes to money and all of these things and lifestyle. And you know what I'm talking about. So we're kind of covering this out. So we try to get the prospect to come along with us. You understand? We wanted to come along with us, and we try to establish some areas that most people are familiar with and they're looking for. And then we start to come down into the details of the challenges that we're facing, right? Talking about one of the most important aspects is our health. And as we continue with that, and again, I'm not going to go through a presentation here. I just want to give you a flow on how the logic goes as to why these slides are there. Then we get into the understanding of the cellular level without getting too sciencey. And then we talk about this glutathione. What's that big word, glutathione, right? With something they might have heard in some video, something you might have told them earlier. Maybe they've heard it before. Maybe they never heard it at all. But the fact is that we want to understand that this is a really important element that's in every single cells of your body. So as we keep moving forward is, okay, well, what is glutathione? You see, we're starting to establish the base of credibility right now, right? So once you establish credibility, then we can start adding value. And that's the point we're going to get into here. So in this case, we start to talk about the environment. We know the environment is toxic right now more than ever. We understand that. So from there, we start to increase on, again, on the credibility, on the value of what glutathione means. What is glutathione? Why is it so important? What are some of the benefits? And unfortunately, if you start declining that really important compound, then what happens? Right? So it's all part of establishing that credibility and bring the reality of the situation that we're all facing. So now we get into what are the cause of situations that decreases the glutathione in our bloodstream, which is so important to stay healthy. And people are starting to recognize that. And then we turn around and says, well, you know what, without again making any medical claims or things like this, is to understand that if your body is not healthy, then unfortunately it will not be living in a state where it will be comfortable. Things become very uncomfortable very quickly, especially as you move up in age. So, and people can relate to that. And then we get into the aspect, now we're starting to, we've kind of educated the general public on what we have, what we're offering, the reason why it's important. Now we're getting into why is our product have such credibility. And we get into the quality, the science aspect of things, right? And then we talk about the credibility of the patent, right? This is not some product that has just been created to justify an opportunity, but there's some real tangible science behind that. And here's our scientist. And I love the story of Dr. Herb Nagasawa. I really take the time to read this so people understand how the whole concept of glutathione and how Max kind of came together because of his science, right? Now, I don't talk so much about the company per se, but I talk about why the science that Dr. Herb Nagasawa has presented to Max International is so important and how it all started. And I find that when you explain that, it really, again, elevates the belief and the credibility of what we have to present. And then I briefly talk about the people behind the company, right? And as we going through this slide and we've established that that part of the credibility of, well, there's people behind the company that really care about the well-being of the associates and the well-being of this company and the well-being of this opportunity, right? They look out for everybody. And then from there, we get into the products. Now, you'll notice here, I don't have any flags or any, because obviously we have many countries. We have Canada, we have the United States, we have Ghana, we have Nigeria, we have so many countries, you know, the Philippines, right? So we're building all over the world, all of, you know, in West Africa and everything. So what's happening here is that each market have their own regulations and their own approval. So I kind of left it blank for the time being, but I kept the halal, which I believe is very important because there's a lot of religious communities and it needs to be addressed and respected. Another certification that's, again, very important is Banned Substance Control Group. So it's here for credibility, right? So I'm not going to walk through the products here. I think everybody can understand what's going on. But then we talk about our flagship products and all of the importance benefits of these products. And of course, different markets may not have all the products that are presented here. That's, again, this kind of generic. But once we've talked about the products, now what's happening is, again, we're in the element that now we establish credibility and now we're starting to create some value for why these products are valuable and why they are important. And of course, to kind of put the cherry on the cake, that's when we share the stories, the testimonies, the real life testimonies. Some people will love to do it in the middle of the presentation. I like to mention that we have great testimonies, and at the end of the presentation, that's when we do the stories. The reason why is because online, we have a very short window, and sometimes stories could go on and on and on and on, right? So when it's at the end, you can kind of control, you know what I mean? Because we've done all the information, and we're not going to get distracted with too many situations, but we stay focused on the message. And then at the end, I like to do testimony. But when you're in an environment of on the office or hotel presentation, it's a bit different because it's a controlled environment where you can actually you know, kind of control the time you're going to be doing your testimonies live. But when it's online, sometimes it could get a little out of hand. So that's the reason why I keep these at the end of presentation. But I like the fact that it's mentioned here after the product to bring some credibility here. And then we get into the income. Now what's going on is we're creating value over and above what the product can bring. Well, here's how the company compensates you, right? So what's happening is most companies, what they do is they have these great products and they sell it, through these big stores. And at the end of the day, the fat cats, and in no disrespect meant, but the consumers don't get compensated at all, right? If you go to Walmart or Walgreens or whatever, you're not going to compensate it because you told someone to go to Walmart to buy something. But if people come through Max and they buy the products through you, the company will compensate you because you told someone about it. And that's what makes the opportunity so amazing, because consumers are being rewarded for telling other consumers. And I really believe that that is the way of the future, folks. And in fact, it's already happening. And then from there, we just carry on with the opportunity. And here we talked about the importance of, everything now is online, right? Businesses are growing online. And we covered that in this presentation. If you look at the script, it's all documented over here. And then over here, we get into just kind of a quick visual where we have potential customers or partners that are being introduced by the person here to the company. And from that point on, the company will compensate the person for telling the potential customers or partner about the product or the company or so forth. You understand? So it gives an idea that people say, oh, I get it. They don't need to figure out numbers and all of this. You keep things very, very simple and very light. And then we get into the aspect of the business. And the reason why we approached it this way is because we understand the triangle thing. It's a reality, right? I mean, everything is based on, the government is at the top, and then you have the managers, and then you have all the employees, and you have, the maintenance underneath. But in our industry, it doesn't really work that way, right? The guy at the bottom could make way more than the guy at the top if they were more active than the guy at the top. That's the reality. And for that reason, we decided to do it in a format that people can really respect and can associate with, and not kind of prejudge what we're presenting. And that's the reason why we have this format over here. And from that point out, we're kind of touching on kind of the possibilities without getting into a lot of details, but here are the possibilities that you can earn. And again, the details can be expanded after the presentation. When the presentation is done, you sit with the person. That's when you can start kind of crunching the numbers and breaking it down so they get a better understanding. But here's just to pique your curiosity, right? And then from there, we kind of talk a little bit about the benefit of the commissions, when you're active, when you buy some products every single month. And here's all the possibilities on earning what we call a royalty from the people that you bring into your team. And again, there's a script that explains all of that. And I find it brilliant, and it's very easy to understand. And of course, at the end, we talk about support. One of the most important thing people have, the concern is, well, who's going to help me? I don't have experience. I never done that. Never had been successful doing this kind of business. And we it's all part of the script over here. And some of the benefits working with professionals and people that have experience in this kind of business, we're all mingled together and we work together. Like some of you are aware of some of the groups that were created, some Facebook groups where the whole world is in there and we all support each other to help each other build with information that some of us have invested to learn so we can grow and rub shoulders with the millionaires, right? So all of that is kind of expressed in a presentation, and of course in a language that you want to present it, right? You can choose to add this as you see fit. And again, here's an example where you can start for as low as $150 and as high as $1,000. And again, it's anywhere in between. It's just to give people kind of a marge, right? They don't need to get the details right now. They're not signing up as they're watching the information. They are evaluating, do I want to be part of this opportunity? And here's the minimum, here's the maximum. Where do you fit in between all of that? And the way you present the opportunity is how the person will choose to be part of the venture. And then we finished over here. And often Tammy and I like to share our story of online, how it all started for us. And then from there, we make them understand that, it's your birthright to have ultimate abundance. You understand? And then we carry on with, and we finish a presentation with this. And after this is done, that's when we focus on the individual stories. Usually we have one or two, maybe three, depending on how long the testimonials are. But generally 2 stories is good. And I try to balance it between the business and the product. So it's not just product stories, but it's a balance between the opportunity and the product. And as a whole, folks, this is it. Um, and at the end of the day, what's going to make a difference between the results that you're going to get into this presentation, folks? It really comes down to the way that you are conducting yourself, the posture you have when you present this opportunity. Folks, in my point of view, we have probably one of the most important nutraceutical supplements that exists on the planet. And I know everybody will claim that, but I know for a fact for the past 15, almost 15 years, what I have seen around the world. We also have a compensation plan that has helped us design the life that we want. I mean, it's just wonderful what we've had. And despite all the challenges that we're facing in the economy and inflation and everything else, yes, folks, we need to readjust, no problem, for sure. That's no question. But the opportunity is wonderful. The question is, do you understand it so you can benefit from it? And number three, I believe that Max has set a new standard when it comes to incentive trips, right? So these are all the things that could be shared in testimonials, and it could also be added on as you're sharing your opportunity presentation as you get more experience. So folks, I hope that this was helpful for you. And I really look forward to see a lot of you presenting. And remember, the goal, if you want to have success, it's all about uniting. It's unity. And in unity, there is prosperity. And if you keep things congruent and consistent, then the new person watching, after a while, will be able to repeat. But if everybody has their own different versions of how they want to go about things, of course, it's your right to do that. It's just going to slow down the progress that your team will grow. Okay, it will slow down the growth of your organization. I've seen the fastest organization in the world growing. They were very consistent and precise and duplicating the right activities, doing the money-making activities. And that's what the presentation is all about. It's money-making activities. The more presentation you do, the more success you will have. Again, my name is Chris. It was a real pleasure to share with you, and I hope, again, that the information was helpful. Bye for now.